And let's open up market headlines. President Joko Widodo said to the World Economic Forum's online meeting that Indonesia will push for the creation of a new global health agency while holds the presidency of the G20. Jokowi said the agency would strengthen the world's health resilience and help make the global health system more inclusive and more responsive to crisis. He said the World Health Organization had showed limited capacity to deal with the COVID-19 pandemic. Many current global health collaborations, including on vaccines, were only temporary programs. He called on the world's major economies to co-finance the initiative and reach an agreement during Indonesia's presidency of the G20 this year.
Presidensi G20 Indonesia fokus pada 3 prioritas utama yang sejalan dengan prioritas nasional dan kondisi global, yaitu pertama, menata kembali arsitektur kesehatan global agar lebih inklusif dan tanggap terhadap krisis. Produksi vaksin ditingkatkan dengan distribusi yang merata, investasi dan pendanaan yang dibutuhkan harus dapat dimobilisasi secara cepat. Upaya untuk mencegah krisis selanjutnya.
OJK projects credit growth in 2022 to reach 7.5%. Meanwhile, to support economic recovery, OJK emphasized that the period for credit restructuring policy has been extended to 2023. The Financial Services Authority, or OJK, projects credit growth this year to a maximum of 8.5%. This projection is considered in line with the projected economic growth, which is estimated to reach 5.2% on an annual basis. Last year, credit growth was only 5.2% on an annual basis. However, the gross non-performing loan or NPL ratio is considered controlled at the level of 3% and tends to decrease from 2020 at the level of 3.06%.
Kami memproyeksikan di 2020 ini akan lebih baik dari tahun lalu, sehingga kredit kami perkirakan akan tumbuh sekitar 7,5%. Dana pihak ketiga akan tumbuh di rentang sekitar 10%. Dalam pandemi COVID ini kita masih mempunyai PR, yaitu restrukturisasi kredit dalam rangka COVID yang jumlahnya sudah semakin menurun, yaitu 693,6 triliun. Ini jauh di bawah level tertinggi pada saat itu 830,5 triliun pada tahun 2020. Namun kami sudah kita minta kepada sektor keuangan perbankan untuk selalu membentuk pencadangan. Ke depan dalam menjaga perekonomian kita masih banyak hal-hal yang harus kita lakukan, di antaranya bagaimana percepatan pemulihan kredit yang direstrukturisasi dan telah kami perpanjang sampai dengan tahun 2023.
During the pandemic, OJK claimed to have restructured loans reaching 693.6 trillion rupiah. This figure is down compared to 2020, which amounted to 830.5 trillion rupiah. Of this amount, a reserve of 14.85% or 103 trillion rupiah has been formed. IDX Channel reports. And we're moving on to global update. Ukraine's president hits back at comments made by Joe Biden about a minor incursion by Russia. Meanwhile, Netflix faces rocky road as the surge of interest it saw during the pandemic fades. More stories on today's International Minute. Ukraine's President Volodymyr Zelensky has hit back at comments made by his U.S. counterpart Joe Biden about a minor incursion by Russia into his country. Biden has suggested that a minor attack might bring a weaker response from the U.S. and its allies. But Zelensky tweeted, "There are no minor incursions, just as there are no minor casualties and little grief from the loss of loved ones." Russia has some 100,000 troops near the border but denies planning an invasion. Austria has moved closer to introducing a compulsory vaccination order after Parliament's lower house voted in favor of new government proposals. The law, which is due to come into effect on February 1st, would make Austria the first European country to introduce a mandatory jab. From mid-March, the law will see adults unvaccinated against COVID-19 subjected to fines of up to €3,600. Turkey's central bank on Thursday bowed to market pressure and halted a 4-month streak of interest rate cuts that saw inflation soar and the currency collapse. The bank left its policy rate at 14% 2 days after President Recep Tayyip Erdogan, a fervent opponent of high interest rates, said future reduction could come gradually and without any rush. Erdogan has been waging a war of economic independence designed to break Turkey's dependence on foreign currency inflows by boosting cheap lending and revving up exports. The number of Netflix subscribers grew to 222 million last year, but the streaming firm is facing a rocky road ahead as the surge of interest it saw during the pandemic fades. Overall, Netflix added 18.2 million members last year, roughly half the number who subscribed in 2020. Investors had hoped that pace would start to pick up again, but the firm's 2022 forecast brought bad news, sending shares down almost 20% in after-hours trade. IDX Channel reports. Revenue from tourism sector is targeted to reach $1.7 billion. Market headlines. We'll be right back.
Saya Mangivera Tjong dan rekan saya Wicky Adrian hadir dalam Power Breakfast.
Awali hari Anda dengan informasi dunia ekonomi yang diulas dari berbagai sudut pandang.
Indeks harga saham gabungan konsisten.
Simak pula analisa pasar modal dan inspirasi bisnis dari berbagai perusahaan rintisan.
Tapi inovasi ini dilancarkan.
Power Breakfast, Senin sampai Jumat, pukul 8.00, hanya di IDX Channel.
Awal mula tertarik untuk menulis buku dan kenapa memilih untuk buku anak gitu? Karena
aku tuh penikmat buku anak. Dan
perbincangan bersama sosok wanita yang menginspirasi.
Aku suka banget ngumpulin buku anak.
Nah, ada nggak sih inspirasi?
Diulas secara santai dan mendalam.
Buku anak dari luar banyak sih ya. Cuma akhir-akhir ini aku lagi suka banget sama bukunya
Women's Talk.
Yamada.
Setiap Jumat pukul 12.30 waktu Indonesia bagian Barat, hanya di IDX Channel.
Melarang keras pengusaha dan perusahaan untuk melakukan ekspor batubara ke luar negeri.
Kumpulan berita ekonomi dan bisnis dari dalam negeri.
Ini mutlak. Jangan sampai dilanggar dengan alasan apapun.
Mengungkap fakta dan data perekonomian secara mendalam.
Dunia kinerjanya akan sangat dipengaruhi oleh manage pandemi ini.
Senin sampai Jumat pukul 14.30 hanya di IDX Channel.
Welcome back on Market Headlines. The Ministry of Energy and Mineral Resources has lifted the export ban on as many as 139 coal companies, where this revocation is carried out after these companies have fulfilled their domestic market obligations of 100% or more. The Director General of Mineral and Coal, Ridwan Jamaluddin, revealed that his party had allowed 75 coal export ships to sail. In addition, the government also allows 12 other ships that have not fulfilled 100% of the DMO but are still able to fulfill their domestic obligations. Currently, there are 9 ships loading coal from trading companies or traders who are permitted to sail by the government.
Sudah merekomendasikan pencabutan larangan ekspor bagi perusahaan perdagangan PKP 2B atau UP yang sudah memenuhi 100% atau lebih. Jadi per hari ini terhadap 139 perusahaan batubara yang telah memenuhi kewajibannya lebih dari 100%, sudah tidak lagi dilarang untuk melakukan ekspor.
Due to many international events held, Minister of Tourism and Creative Economy targets revenues in the tourism sector in 2022 to reach $470 million to $1.7 billion.
Minister of Tourism and Creative Economy Sandiaga Uno targets revenues in the tourism sector in 2022 to reach $470 million to $1.7 billion or equivalent to 6.7 trillion rupiah to 24.4 trillion rupiah. Sandiaga is optimistic about this achievement because this year there will be many international events held, such as MotoGP, G20, and the World Conference on Creative Economy.
Tahun 2022 ini kita menargetkan jumlah kunjungan wisatawan meningkat sebanyak 100% dari tadinya hanya 1,6, 1,7, sekarang kita menyasar 1,8 sampai 3,6 juta. Nilai devisa pariwisatanya 470 juta sampai 1,7 miliar US dollar. Ini juga akan ada peningkatan signifikan karena banyak dari kegiatan internasional akan digelar di Indonesia seperti MotoGP, G20, World Conference on Creative Economy. Oleh karena itu juga kita menjadikan wisatawan mancanegara ini sebuah harapan, optimisme.
Meanwhile, for domestic tourists, this year Sandiaga is targeting 260 million to 280 million. The contributions of tourism to GDP is also targeted to reach 4.3%, as well as exports of creative products, which are expected to reach $21.3 billion. IDX Channel reports.
The Ministry of Finance assessed that Indonesia's economic growth has shown recovery after the peak of the Delta variant of the COVID-19 spread. The government is optimistic that Indonesia's economic growth will grow quite strongly in the fourth quarter of 2021. The Minister of Finance, Sri Mulyani Indrawati, revealed that if the fourth quarter of 2021 economic growth can reach 5%, thus overall economic growth throughout 2021 is 4%. Currently, there are a number of indicators that support this projection, including strong consumption, recovering investment, high credit growth, and rapidly increasing central and regional government spending in fourth quarter 2021.
Momentum pemulihan ekonomi kita sudah juga menunjukkan hal yang bagus. Sesudah kita mengalami dampak dari Delta sehingga pertumbuhan hanya di 3,5, kita optimis di kuartal keempat pertumbuhan akan recover cukup kuat. Beberapa indikator estimasi dari BKF itu ada di sekitar 5%. Jadi kalau Q4-nya di 5%, kita berharap keseluruhan.
Supported by a number of new policies, the Ministry of Marine Affairs and Fisheries expects investment in the fisheries sector to rise by 4 to 5% in 2022.
The Ministry of Marine Affairs and Fisheries has said it expects investment in the fisheries sector to rise by 4 to 5% in 2022, supported by a number of new policies enforced by the Indonesian government. The total investment in the fisheries sector in 2021 was estimated at 6.02 trillion rupiah. Supporting that estimation, Sarwanto presented data on fisheries sector investment for the third quarter of 2021, which was recorded at 4.11 trillion rupiah. The realizations of fisheries sector investment over the past 5 years has remained skewed, with many investment only centered in Java Island. Therefore, the implementations of the measurable fish catching program in 2022 in some Indonesian fish catching zones can help narrow the investment gap between regions. Other than the fish catching subsector, there is investment potential in other subsectors such as aquaculture and fisheries product processing. According to Sarwanto, in 2021, the largest investment in the fisheries sector was seen in aquaculture, reaching about 30% of the total investment, followed by fisheries processing industry 27%, and the fish capture and trade subsector absorbing the rest. Investors in fisheries sector came from other countries such as China and Singapore. IDX Channel reports.
Medco focuses to become main gas supplier for Singapore. Stay with us. Market Headlines will be back.
Awali hari Anda dengan informasi dunia ekonomi yang diulas dari berbagai sudut pandang. Power Breakfast, Senin sampai Jumat, pukul 8.00, hanya di IDX Channel.
Awal mula tertarik untuk menulis buku dan kenapa memilih untuk buku anak gitu? Karena aku tuh penikmat buku anak. Dan
perbincangan bersama sosok wanita yang menginspirasi.
Aku suka banget ngumpulin buku anak. Nah, ada nggak sih inspirasi?
Diulas secara santai dan mendalam.
Buku anak dari luar banyak sih ya. Cuma akhir-akhir ini aku lagi suka banget sama bukunya
Women's Talk. Setiap Jumat pukul 12.30 waktu Indonesia bagian Barat, hanya di IDX Channel. Awali hari Anda dengan beragam informasi bisnis terkini yang kami kemas dalam berita teraktual dan berkualitas. Power Breakfast, informasi terkini seputar ekonomi, bisnis, pasar modal, dan industri kreatif yang dikemas secara ringan. New Screen menyajikan informasi ekonomi, bisnis, dan keuangan. Market Headline menayangkan berita ekonomi dan bisnis dalam bahasa Inggris. Saksikan program-program berita ekonomi dan bisnis terkini langsung dari sumbernya, live hanya di IDX Channel. Your Trustworthy Economic, Business, and Capital Market Channel.
You're watching Market Headlines. At the Jakarta Composite Index intraday movement earlier today, JCI was open at the level of 6,614.92. And then approaching the closing time on the first session, the index was on the level of 6,662.74. And then the index was showing a strengthening trend by the second session closing time. Index was closed at the level of 6,726.37. And in short, Jakarta Composite Index went up 1.5%. And next, we're going to see the sectoral movement leading the dynamics of today's trading. We got basic sector as the leader of strengthening trend that went up 1.96%. Energy went up 1.92%. Technology sector went up 1.41%, and finance sector went up 1.41%. And let's see the top gainers and top losers for today's trading session. From the top gainers, Arto went up 1.88% to the level of 19,000 rupiah per share. Bank Sentral Asia went up 2.25% to the level of 7,950 rupiah per share. Bank Rakyat Indonesia went up 0.97% to the level of 4,170 rupiah per share, and Aneka Tambang went up 0.52% to the level of 1,945 rupiah per share. And from top gainers, let's move to the top losers. For today's trading, we see MITI went down 0.83% to the level of 238 rupiah per share. Amar went down 6.99% to the level of 995 rupiah per share. Bukalapak went down 2.13% to the level of 368 rupiah per share, and Toba went down 3.18% to the level of 1,520 rupiah per share. And we're going to see the intraday movement of rupiah towards US dollar. Open at the level of 14,346 rupiah, showing strengthening trend towards US dollar. And it was closed at the level of 14,314. And in summary, rupiah went up 0.08%. After the transaction for the acquisition of ConocoPhillips, Medco Energy International has the ambition to become a major gas supplier to Singapore. In order to boost its performance, Medco Energy International has the ambition to become a major gas supplier to Singapore after the share transaction for the acquisition of ConocoPhillips. Meanwhile, through an official statement, it was stated that Medco would take over the shares of ConocoPhillips Indonesia holding through Medco Energy Global. The company will acquire 12,000 shares of ConocoPhillips at a value of $1 per share. Medco's management emphasized that the acquisition is part of the company's business strategy to increase company value and continue to focus on effective integration. In addition, Medco's production will be 78% of gas after the acquisition with a larger fixed-price gas portfolio. The acquisition is expected to result in gradual and credit positive growth in value, as well as a significantly increased scope for synergies. IDX Channel reports. Sarana Sentral Bajatama managed to book a net profit of around 100 billion rupiah in 2021. Meanwhile, for 2022, the targeted net profit is 60 billion rupiah, or lower than last year. Last year, supported by increased sales, Sarana Sentral Bajatama managed to book a net profit of around 100 billion rupiah. According to the managing director of Sarana Sentral Bajatama, Handaya Susanto, there are two reasons that make the company's sales run smoothly in 2021. Increase in sales in terms of volume and increase in price. Meanwhile, in 2021, the company recorded a production volume of 80,000 tons within 10 months. The remaining 2 months in November and December carried out maintenance to replace the furnace lining. Nevertheless, Handaya explained that expectations for 2022 are not as good as positive activity in 2021. Still, commodity prices are not expected to rise significantly like last year. One of the effects is the low interest rates in America, which have an impact on the use of money that runs to commodities such as steel. Management targets this year's revenue to reach 1.5 trillion rupiah. Meanwhile, the targeted net profit is 60 billion rupiah. IDX Channel reports. In order to boost performance this year, Bluebird will allocate a capital expenditure of around 1.2 trillion rupiah. According to Bluebird Deputy President Director Adrianto Joko Sutono, the majority of the use of capex will be allocated to purchase new fleet units. Through this fleet expansion, the company hopes to increase the company's operational efficiency. The plan is that the company will buy around 5,000 units of the new fleet in 2022. Adrianto also said that in 2021, the company recorded an improved performance in the fourth quarter of 2021, so that it is quite confident throughout 2022 with better performance compared to the previous year. And for information, the company recorded that revenue in December 2021 had reached approximately 75% to 80% of monthly income under normal conditions before the COVID-19 pandemic. As the economic recovery continues, Bank Indonesia decided to maintain the 7-day reverse repo rate at 3.5% in January 2022.
The meeting of the Board of Governors Bank of Indonesia decided to maintain the benchmark 7-day reverse repo rate at 3.5% in January 2022. Likewise, the deposit facility and lending facility rates remain at 2.75% and 4.25% respectively. Perry said this policy was taken after considering economic conditions both globally and domestically. From a global perspective, Perry assessed that the global economic recovery is still continuing.
Rapat Dewan Gubernur Bank Indonesia pada 19 dan 20 Januari 2022 memutuskan untuk mempertahankan BI 7-day reverse repo rate sebesar 3,5%. Demikian juga suku bunga deposit facility tetap sebesar 2,75% dan suku bunga lending facility tetap sebesar 4,25%. Pemulihan tersebut diperkirakan akan berlangsung lebih seimbang. Tidak hanya bertumpu pada Amerika Serikat dan Tiongkok, namun juga disertai dengan perbaikan ekonomi di Eropa, Jepang, dan India. Dengan perkembangan tersebut, Bank Indonesia memperkirakan pertumbuhan ekonomi global tetap berlanjut hingga mencapai 4,4% pada tahun 2022. Sementara itu, ketidakpastian pasar keuangan global juga tetap berlanjut, sejalan dengan percepatan kebijakan normalisasi Bank Sentral Amerika Serikat, the Fed, sebagai respon tekanan inflasi di Amerika Serikat yang meningkat.
Meanwhile, Bank of Indonesia noted that the rupiah depreciated 0.01% compared to the end of December 2021. This was due to the limited inflow of foreign capital. Then inflation is claimed to be kept low and within the BI target range of 3% plus minus 1%. Inflation was recorded at 1.87% in 2021. IDX Channel report.
Garuda Indonesia continues to optimize operational readiness steps for Hajj flights. One of the steps is by ensuring the availability and readiness of its fleet, which will serve Hajj flights. Garuda Indonesia is preparing a special fleet of Hajj flights in 2022. The company continues to optimize various operational readiness steps for Hajj flights, one of which is by ensuring the availability and readiness of the fleet which will later serve Hajj flights in 2022. Garuda Indonesia President Director Irfan Setiaputra said he would refer to the provisions and policies the government of Saudi Arabia regarding the certainty of organizing the pilgrimage for pilgrims from Indonesia. Meanwhile, one of these commitments is carried out by ensuring that the fleet that will be used in carrying out the Hajj flight services is in a condition that is airworthy and serviceable. Furthermore, Garuda Indonesia also continues to carry out intensive coordination with relevant authorities, especially the Ministry of Religion, to ensure that all Hajj flight requirements can be met, and the Indonesian Ministry of Transportation ensures the fulfillment of the airworthiness aspect of all fleets that will be used on these flights. IDX Channel reports. And step aside from market condition as the efforts in achieving herd immunity is still going on. Here it is another data about COVID-19 vaccinations in Indonesia. And that's all for today. Enjoy our next program on IDX Channel. Thanks for watching. I'm Fajar Wayong. Have a nice evening. Happy weekend.